Welcome to Harbour, Florida. Those of you who are local, it's great to be here. Those of you who are not from here, it's great to have you here as well. We're in the young Israel of Harbour, and we're here to learn this week's Parashat. So just as an introduction to what I do with the Miami Torah Center is we spread Torah all throughout South Florida, whether it's from Hollywood, Florida, all the way down to Miami Beach in multiple locations. So on a weekly basis in many of these different locations. So we welcome you to tune in, whether it's online or to come in person to join us. Our schedule could be found on our website. It could also be found on Facebook or through our WhatsApp groups, and we welcome everyone to join us, B'ezrat Hashem. This week we are studying Parashat Vayishlach, and hopefully every Monday evening, at least during this season, the winter season, it's going to be at 7:30 p.m., open to men and women, so we hope you can all join. This week we're going to study Parashat Vayishlach. We are speaking in these Torah portions about Yaakov Avinu, the third of our patriarchs, and we're just going to give a little bit of an introduction of the episodes that took place, that are about to take place, and then we're going to speak about some real practical life lessons that we can apply, each of us, to our lives, and that hopefully they'll be understandable enough for us to transmit it, whether it's to our spouses, to our children, to our friends, to our co-workers, and hopefully make a difference. Last week, Jacob is married to his wives. He was sent by his parents to go get married. How many wives do you think Rivka and Yitzchak had in mind for him to marry? One, right? One. How many did he come out with? 4. Well, 2 and 2, okay? 4 is 4. You could say 2 and 2, right? Whether it's 4 or 2 plus 2, they both equal 4, right? Okay, but he comes home. He's now married, or he's living with 4 women. He has 12 of his 13 children. 11 of the boys are born. Yosef is the last one to be born, along with Dinah. This week's parasha is when Binyamin is born, and unfortunately Rachel passes during childbirth. He now has his father-in-law to deal with. This is last week's parasha. He escapes, and while he's escaping, his father-in-law is pursuing him, and right before his father-in-law is going to maybe do something he would have regretted, or something atrocious, at that moment God reveals himself in a dream to Lavan and warns him, do not put a finger on Yaakov or your daughters or your grandchildren or anything that belongs to them. He really put the fear of God put the fear of God into Lavan. At this point, Yaakov is 97 years old. So he's not a young man. How do we get to 97? Besides for Mr. Kleinman, do we have any other mathematicians in the room? No. Okay, so you're going to help me with this. He is 63 years old when he leaves his parents' house. Actually, let's take a step back. We did this last week. He was 15 years old when he purchased the birthright from his brother. Okay? 15 years old. Time passed, almost like everyone forgot, and all of a sudden Isaac's eyes start dimming. He started having some sight issues. He started thinking he's going blind, and he thought that that's it. The end of his life is coming close. At that moment, he summons Esav to give him a blessing. The boys at that age are 63, and that's when the blessing was given to Yaakov instead of Esav. So that was a long time, from 15 years old all the way till 63. So 63 is when his parents tell him, time to leave, time for you to get away. We spoke about this. Rivka's intention was so that Esav doesn't hurt or kill Yaakov, but she convinced her husband Yitzchak that it's because there isn't a good shidduch, there isn't the right match for him to be found here, rather let's go elsewhere. Okay. He's on his way out. He stops at yeshiva for 14 years. Okay, how old is he now when he comes to Lavan's house? 77. Okay, 63 plus 14 is 77. So he meets Rachel, Leah, Lavan, all of these people, all of his family members and closer family members to be, at the age of 77. He still doesn't get married, because what do we know that happens next? 7 years of working. So he works for 7 years. How old is Yaakov at his wedding? 84 years old. Okay? Yaakov Avinu, our pious, righteous, be all and end all of the patriarchs. He's 84 years old. That is chuppah. What happens? He had 2 chuppahs. He was 84 both of his weddings, right? Because it was only a week apart. Okay. So we had a repeat, just in case if you didn't know that it was true. You had a double take. Next week it was the same thing. Okay. 7 years he works for his other wife. Well, it was really Rachel again. And then he works for himself for 6 years. If you total those numbers up, you get to 97. So 97, he leaves. It's about time for him to go. He summons his wives. Time to go. Hashem told him to go. He's on his way. Now, that leads us into this week's parasha, because last week's parasha ends off with Lavan kissing his grandchildren and bidding them farewell, him going home, seemingly, and we're soon going to see not so, but seemingly like, okay, Lavan's out of the story. We don't know of Lavan anymore. Wait, hold on, okay? And then it just says, Yaakov halach lidarko, Yaakov goes on his way, Vayifku bo malachei Elokim, and the angels that are going to now escort him into and back in the land of Israel, they're coming back to him. Vayomer Yaakov kasher ra'a machane Elokim ze vayikra makom ha'u machanaim. He sees this place, he names it Machanaim. Okay, this week, now Yaakov is sending angels, messengers. We have difference of opinions in our commentaries to his brother Esav. Okay, there seems like a little gap. What happened? How is it that he's on his way, and then the next thing is he sends angels, or he sends messengers to beseech his brother? Did he know his brother was coming? Well, he had to have known his brother was coming if he was sending angels. Right? This is like a basic question that many of us just stop and don't ask ourselves. That is the point of learning the Torah. The point of learning the Torah is challenging it and looking for an answer. Chas v'shalom, we're not here to challenge to defy. We're here to challenge to understand. That's the beauty of learning the Torah. That's the beauty of Jewish philosophy. That's the beauty of delving in deep. So this is just a simple question. He's now sending angels or messengers to his brother. How do you know that he was coming? Anybody? Okay, that's a good answer. Is it written somewhere?
No.
So let's see what's written, but that's a good guess. It's definitely a good guess. So I found 2 answers. I think one's a bigger chidush, a bigger novelty than the other. But listen to the following. One answer is brought by the Midrash. The Mamloaz brings it down. That Yaakov didn't know Esav was coming. So now we're back to the question. So why would he send angels? Why would he send messengers? He doesn't know his brother's coming. Because Yaakov knew that he was passing through or around Edom. And Edom was the city of Esav. So he was now taking preventative measures. He was out of caution making sure that, listen, he's traveling. He's not traveling alone. You know, when you travel alone, when you take a flight and you're all alone, it's easy. It's very easy. It's easier than traveling with your spouse. It's easier traveling than with your children. It's easier than traveling with your grandchildren. It's easier than traveling with your pets and with all your belongings. It's like take a flight to Israel for Pesach time with 5 children, v'yanara. Okay? And you need to bring the nanny, and everyone's got 2 luggages and 2 carry-ons, and you get there and you got to rent 2 cars or a massive van or a U-Haul if they have that in Israel, which they don't. Okay? Or you go, you're going yourself for a weekend in Israel, for argument's sake. With a carry-on. Can you compare the two? Yaakov's not traveling alone over here. Yaakov is traveling with 12 children, God knows how many maids, animals and more animals and more animals, and all his wealth and his wives and their things and who knows what. So he now has to take precaution. It's not like he could sneak around or sneak through incognito. People didn't know he's traveling. Okay? So what he did was he took preventative measures. He sent messengers, whether they're physical or spiritual. He sent messengers to his brother to let him know Literally, I come in peace. Okay, this is one answer. I saw a more fascinating answer from the Sefer HaYashar. It's a deeper answer. I think you're going to really appreciate this. Sefer HaYashar, it's brought in the Me'am Loez amongst other amongst other commentaries. I could look up exactly the author. He says as follows. We think that Lavan was over, right? But let's get into the mind of Lavan. Lavan had 2 daughters, and his nephew comes along, bare on his back, no money to his name, nothing, no dowry, no gifts, no nothing. He comes and he works his way up to acquiring his daughters and acquiring most of his own wealth and more. And then picks up and leaves. Yes, it was a 20-year period, but Lavan feels barren. He feels like he was stripped from everything that he has. So do you think, even though he had the fear of God put into him by God himself, you think he's over? So listen to what the Sefer HaYashar writes, that Lavan comes home, and on his way home, he sends his son, who was 17 years old. His name was Beor. Okay? Bil'am ben Beor. Okay? He sends his son Beor to send to Esav with a letter. And the nature of the letter, the Sefer HaYashar writes, is as follows. I'm sure you heard Mr. Esav, or not Mr. Esav, it was his nephew also. My dear nephew Esav, may peace be upon you, my blessing to you, da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm sure you heard of your brother who tricked me and swindled me. After he did the same to you, he took your blessing, he took your birthright. He came to me and he literally took my kids, he took my grandkids, he took my animals, he took everything from me. I'm just letting you know that he's passing by you on his way home. It might be a good time to ambush him and take revenge. Maybe. That's what he sends him. So Esav, according to this opinion, Esav really found out first that Yaakov was heading in his way. So how did Yaakov find out? What Esav did is the Torah says, Esav comes with 400 armed men. He was coming to wage war. This was no joke. This was no picnic. And he's on his way. He gathered 60 of his own men, but he also gathered 340 from the surrounding areas. From these people, you can't just summon 400 people and there's no fanfare, there's no noise. Amongst all these people coming together, Rivka, Yaakov and Esav's mother, finds out that Esav is planning to ambush and to attack Yaakov. So she sent, and don't ask me why this number, although it is a significant number, 72 of her own servants, strong men, to go deliver the message to Yaakov that his brother Esav is about to wage war against him. Okay? And this is how Yaakov and Esav knew of each other's comings. Okay? Very interesting, huh? Okay. The Torah says, I'm in now chapter 32, Lev, okay? Verse 8 says as follows, Vayira Yaakov me'od. Yaakov was very scared. Okay? Vayetzer lo. Vayetzer lo means it distressed him. He was very, very bothered. Vayachatz et ha'am asher ito ve'et hatzon ve'et habakar ve'gamlim l'shnei machanot. And he splits up his property, his camp, his family. You take a split. And we all know the reason for this. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. He was preparing for war. We'll speak a little bit more about that. But one question I want to address, and I think this evening we're going to give 3 main answers, and each of them have their own very, very powerful lesson to be learned from them, is how is it that Yaakov Avinu was scared? Why would he be scared of his brother? To strengthen the question, I want to take us back to chapter 28. If you don't have a Chumash, I'm sure you trust me for quoting it properly. 28, verse 15. This is in the beginning of last week's parasha, it says as follows. V'ineh Hashem now promises Yaakov Avinu to protect him. It says, V'ineh Anochi imach. Hashem says, I'm with you. Okay, you're leaving now your home. You're leaving your parents. You don't know where you're going. You know you're going to find the shidduch. Okay, I'm with you. Ushmarticha bechol asher telech. And I'm going to protect you wherever you go. Vashivoticha l'adama azot. And I'm going to return you to this land. So let's strengthen our question. How come is Yaakov scared if he has Hashem's promise? Could anything be greater than Hashem's promise? Let me ask you another question. Can Hashem hold to His promise? Of course. So Yaakov Avinu is scared. How could it be that he is scared? First answer, something also pretty recent that I stumbled upon, Min HaShamayim, amongst my studying, is as follows. Yaakov Avinu has been gone for 34 years. Right? 14 years at the yeshiva and 20 years by Lavan. That means he has not seen his brother's face for 34 years. It's a long time. Okay? Now, what happened at Yaakov's original depart from home? Does anyone remember? Something very special happened before he even got to the yeshiva. Esav was so bothered. Exactly. Esav was so bothered. What? He took my birthright. He took my blessing. And now mommy and daddy are giving him with gifts and blessing him to go get married. Like, he took his son, his eldest son, Eliphaz. Eliphaz at that moment was 13 years old. How old was Yaakov? 63. Okay? He commands his son to murder his uncle. Because really Esav wanted to do it himself. So Eliphaz swiftly catches up with Yaakov. And, I don't know if he was pointing a gun, he had a sword. He's like, I don't know what to do. This is what my father told me to do. So Yaakov's like, you got a real issue because you have kibud ava'im on one side. Your father commanded you to do something. But on the other hand, you're going to take your uncle's life. Furthermore, the commentaries also say that Eliphaz was a student of Yaakov. At 13, Eliphaz wasn't such a horrible person yet. Okay, by the way, Esav wasn't a horrible person at 13 either. At 15 is when the camel's back broke. Okay? Eliphaz tells him, so what do I do? Rebbe! He's calling his uncle, Rebbe! What do I do? We have a mitzvah to honor my father. My father told me to do something. What do I do? So you know what Yaakov does? He doesn't tell him, well, the real halacha, if your father asks you to do something, or your mother asks you to do something which is contrary to what God wants, you don't do it. He said, that's not going to suffice for your father. You're going to come home and you're going to be in a real issue with your dad. Take everything I have, leave me with just a shirt on my back, and a poor person is akin to a dead person. And then you killed me. You come home, did you kill him? I killed him. Where's his blood? Here's his money. Did you kill him? Yeah, he's dead. How's he dead? Well, he's poor. He has nothing to his name. So the Midrash then tells us that Esav says, you know what? If you ever want to get something done, who's got to do it? Yourself. You want to get something done, you do it yourself. Right? You want to get your kids to do something? Do it yourself. That's by the way, the great trait of delegating. Some are great delegators, some aren't. Some are great motivators, and some aren't. As parents, as employers, we try to be great motivators. Delegating is still, okay, there's manipulating, there's delegating, it's a little better, but then there's motivating. We want to try to be motivators. Esav said, I'm going to do this myself. So he goes, and he takes matters into his own hand, and he's chasing Yaakov to kill him. And Yaakov now is being pursued. He's got nothing. He has nothing. The only thing he had was a very special staff. This staff was the staff that Adam HaRishon had, that somehow Yaakov had it. And with this staff, the Midrash says, he splits the Jordan River and quickly crosses over. The water closes, and now Esav is stuck. He's trying to get around. In the meantime, the staff also makes for him a tunnel. He hides in the tunnel. He escapes with this very miraculous staff. By the way, this staff, the Yalkut Shimoni, another Midrash says, this is the very staff that eventually was given to Yehuda. Why is the staff significant to Yehuda? This is one of the 3 signs he gave to Tamar, right? His signet ring, his staff, and his cloak. This staff eventually got into the hands, we're not going to get into now the story of Moshe and Aharon. It eventually got to the hands of David HaMelech, and Bezrat Hashem is going to be the very staff that Mashiach ben David is going to fight our wars with, and Bezrat Hashem bring the coming of the Mashiach. So Yaakov Avinu uses the staff to escape. Why am I telling you all this? This is my answer. Based on this midrash, you know why Yaakov is scared? Because the last time he saw his brother, it wasn't like a blowout. It wasn't words that went back and forth. It was life and death. He was literally escaping for his life. It's like someone's shooting at you and 34 years passed and, yeah, you're not worried to see them. The reasons that Esav was angry back then have not changed. Right? Yaakov's trying to appease him and saying, oh, im lavan garti, I was just, a guest at his house. I spent my time in Torah and mitzvot. I'm nothing too special. Don't look at all my kids. It doesn't really matter. This flock, who cares? Like, he's trying to cover everything up to say, like, I'm not a threat. But at the end of the day, Yaakov did have some worry to be afraid of seeing face to face his brother, even after 34 years, because, let's face it, the last time they met was not a pretty meeting. He was literally being chased for his life. That's the first answer that I want to provide this evening. Second answer. Second answer is based on Rashi in this week's parasha. Rashi says on the pasuk of Katonti mikol hachasidim umikol ha'emet. It's a famous song, right? From Yonatan Razel. Anyone know the song? It's a beautiful, beautiful, meaningful song. I actually learned in the same kol as Yonatan in Eretz Yisrael. And fascinating person, great singer, great composer. So, Katonti mikol hachasidim mikol ha'emet, meaning Yaakov now is humbling, saying, I'm diminished, I'm small from all of God's kindness. Why does he feel now that he's lacking in God's blessing and kindness right now? Rashi says, Yaakov was of the opinion that it could be that his merits have diminished, finished. Okay? Why? Well, maybe he's gotten so much kindness already. Hashem gave me wives, children, all of this wealth. Okay, maybe I used up my points, he's thinking. That's number one. Number two is, maybe I've sinned. Maybe I've soiled my soul and I don't deserve God's protection anymore. Yeah, I had that promise. That promise was 34 years ago. Yeah, 14 years I was in yeshiva, but the past 20 years, of course, Yaakov Avinu was learning Torah, doing mitzvot, but you can't compare one to another. So, for this reason, Rashi is telling us that Yaakov was now feeling like he had an underhand. The question on that is, where's Yaakov's self-doubt coming from? Was he really that bad? Did he really get so much that now he doesn't have God's promise? I mean, God's promise is a promise. It's not like he made him the king of the world. It's not like he made him the most affluent individual in the whole universe. He was good. But did he sin? What did he do that was wrong already? He didn't do anything wrong. Well, he was providing a livelihood for his family. He was building a family. He's 84. Isn't it time to? If not then when? So, with this, I want to share with us a midrash. The midrash tells us that Yaakov Avinu was scared because his brother Esav had two specific mitzvot, commandments that he fulfilled that Yaakov didn't. One of them was, that's the second one. The first one that he brings down is Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, living in the land of Israel. Living in the land of Israel is a tremendous merit. It's a tremendous mitzvah. And this is something that Esav had 20 years on Yaakov, because the 14 years Yaakov was in yeshiva, he was still in Israel, he still didn't leave. But then he still had 20 years that he did not live in the land of Israel. He thought that merit maybe gave Esav a greater merit than his own. Second, like you mentioned, kibud ava'em. Esav was living with his parents. Day in, day out, he was respecting them. We know that Esav excelled tremendously in that mitzvah. That was his mitzvah, honoring specifically his father. And he had a lot of merit for that. But Yaakov is saying, I don't have that. And he has 34 years of me on that. But let's take a pause. Didn't Hashem acknowledge and even allow Yaakov to leave Israel? Yes, that's the beginning of last week's Parashat. Here's another thing. Didn't Yaakov's parents tell him to leave? So wasn't he doing God's will by being out of Israel and doing his parents' will by going? It's interesting to note, and don't ask me why this number, but it seems that Rivka and even Yitzchak had intention for Yaakov to leave for 7 years. I don't know how they must have had prophecy that Lavan would have proposed, okay, 7 years for Rachel, so marry her and leave. Why did he stay? Well, he stayed because he got tricked into staying. But they only had intention for Yaakov to leave for 7 years. Not for 20, not for 34, and not, as we're soon going to see by the end of next week's parasha, 36 years. So, for that reason, Yaakov kind of overdid his stay. Okay? Listen to, going back to those two main things that Esav excelled more than Yaakov on: living in Israel and honoring his parents. Rabbi Noach Weinberg, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, is anyone familiar with him? Okay, obviously the great founder of Esha Torah, Jerusalem and worldwide, a pioneer in revolutionizing the study of Torah in person, online, worldwide, and in every way, just as what? Okay, yes. Just as we can say, it's almost hard to say that not every single Jew has been affected by the Lubavitch Rebbe in one way. Every single Jew in one way or another, no matter how you put it. As if you are devout Chabad, if you are, Chas v'Shalom, completely opposite, there's no way that you weren't affected one way by Chabad, whether it's as small as a meal, or a minyan, or the much more that they have to offer. Okay? The same can be said and should be said about Rabbi Noach Weinberg, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. There are so many Torah institutions, their online resources, their whether it's their immediate graduates or graduates of graduates. It's very hard to say that we don't owe a hakarat tov to the rabbi. Okay, so let's see what he says. A fascinating piece specifically on these two. He says it's no coincidence that Esav excelled specifically where Yaakov was as an underdog, so to say, where he had a lower hand. It's not coincidence that the two mitzvot Yaakov wasn't fulfilling or couldn't fulfill were the two that his enemy, that his twin brother, was fulfilling at a great level. Don't think that, it happened to be. He says it was very, very specific. And he says God was speaking to Yaakov. God was telling Yaakov, you've been doing great. But there's two things that you're lacking on. You know how he showed it to him? He showed it to him in his enemy. He showed it to him in his competition. He does that, meaning Hashem does that, in order to provoke Yaakov Avinu to repent on those, to come back home and serve his parents, to come back and live in the land of Israel. He says that God was showing his enemy excel in those two because those were the two that you really need to work on. He then Rabbi Noach Weinberg takes this idea and he says, as a nation in the 21st century, that same rule applies to us as the Jewish people. Okay? I'm going to say words which may seem a little harsh, a little rash. The Grand Rabbi said it. I'm going to only quote his opinion, and I'll say I agree with it also. Tough luck, right? Tough love. The Jewish nations, it's not Jewish, the Jewish nation over Jewish history always had two main adversaries. And one was the Christian world, and the other was the Islamic world, the Muslim world. These are the two nations which oppressed us for centuries, thousands of years. Okay, and we know that one is an offshoot of Ishmael, the other is an offshoot of Esav, and there's that, if you want to call it that cousin, family feud aspect to it. It's Hashem's intention on helping us become better people and staying committed to Him. Rabbi Noach Weinberg says we need to look at each of our, I'm calling them enemies, adversaries, and see what they excel in the most, and then God is teaching us what we need to do. Is that so to say? That makes sense, right? All right, let's take Christianity first. In what way is Christianity excelling in a tremendous way? Okay, I'll be honest with you. In the 21st century, if we look at the two adversaries, Islam is excelling way more. But if we look at Christianity as a whole, if we look at their history, more than just this century, go a couple centuries back as well, what are they known for? Somebody? Very good. Missionizing. They were always known for missionizing. They did it in a cruel way. It was, die by the sword if you don't join on. Okay? They were imparting their beliefs and their stories and their fiction onto others. But just as Yaakov was to find the good in Esav's good deeds, even though there was, what's the point of living in Israel if you're committing crime all day, right? What's the point of honoring your parents in front of them and going behind their backs away from them? Yet, God was teaching Yaakov a lesson through his brother. God is teaching us a lesson through our, I want to call it distant cousins, not brothers, distant cousins. Okay? He's saying, look at Christianity and look how much efforts, resources, billions and billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours and manpower is put into missionizing. Rabbi Noach Weinberg says, you know what that means to us? It means to us as a Jewish nation, we have an obligation to, although missionize is a dirty word in Judaism, but I'm going to use that word, we have to kind of missionize and go out to our fellow Jewish brothers and sisters and bring them back to living a committed life. That's what they're doing, and that's what they're doing best. Is it by chance? No. God's showing us a model that works, a model that we need to do better at. We need to invest our time. We need to invest our money. We need to invest our strength, our brains, our technology into spreading out and bringing our brothers and sisters closer. Do you know that many aren't close just because they don't know? They don't know better. They grow up in certain communities, certain lifestyles. They just don't know. And don't take for granted that if they go to a Jewish school, it means they know. Do not. We're not going to name names of certain types of communities or sects of communities or specific schools even. Jewish day school does not mean they're coming out knowing the fundamentals of emunah, of belief in God, and bitachon, and trust in God. And this book seems very simple, right? The Chumash? No, it's not a simple book. We all know that. Look how long we're spending on a little episode. We do this week after week, year after year, a lifetime, and there's still so much more to know. So, don't take for granted. Look at what they're doing, and now we need to mimic. We need to do it our way, and guess what? We could do it better. Just like when Jacob comes back to Israel, he's not sinning. He's living in Israel and doing mitzvot. And whose kibud ava'em is greater, Jacob's or Esav's? Well, Esav's looks better, but Jacob's is genuine. When we apply ourselves to, I'm using the word, missionizing, although it's a completely different context, we'll do better. We'll do better for our own families and our own communities and our brothers and sisters worldwide. Then Rabbi Noach Weinberg takes our second adversary, and that is Islam. What is Islam? This is very hard, especially in the 21st century. What? Kitzniut, killing, almost. Wait, let me just say the question on camera, and then we'll think about it for a moment. What is Islam excelling in a great way? So you guys are all very close. Something positive.
There's nothing positive.
That's the greatness of a Jew. even when everything looks negative, there has to be something positive, which in Yiddish we say is krum. It's crooked. There's something there. Very good. What's your name? Suzanne?
We send their kids to get killed.
Mesirut Nefesh means self-dedication and devotion. Their devotion to their cause is second to none. When they believe in what they believe, it's do or die. It's live or dead. That is a Muslim. It is, I will kill myself for my belief. I will kill my family for my belief. I will do something completely ridiculous just to do one thing, which is like I could take one else in their mind. I'll do one step ahead and fall 20 steps back. Doesn't matter. That's their self-devotion and their self-sacrifice for their God, for their belief system, for their community. Is that called, as I said, crooked? It is, because it's not directed in the right way. But let me ask. Rabbi Noach Weinberg asks, is this by chance? No. Because since that's their greatest strength, in all of the chaos, since that's their greatest strength, that's the greatest lesson we need to learn from them. Now it needs to be channeled the right way. It needs to be self-devotion, self-sacrifice, dedication to the morals and ethics that our Torah teaches us, that the Talmud teaches us, and that the Shulchan Aruch teaches us. This is what we're supposed to dedicate ourselves to. But there is, as warped as this sounds, there is something to appreciate about their limitless feeling and action of devotion and self-sacrifice.
But that's sick.
Missionizing is sick too.
No, not is killing.
You're living today. You come from an Arab country. You were born in Morocco.
Right.
We are now living when, it's always a triangle, or either a seesaw or a triangle, right? There's Christianity, there's Islam, and there's Judaism. But it's always one or the other. Hashem does it on purpose that Christianity and Islam are not both on the rise at the same time, because then where would the Jews be? But the century that we live in, the monstrosities are from Islam. If you go back to the 15th century, Christianity. So they're both completely warped. They're both completely crooked when they take their missionizing their way and they take their self-sacrifice and devotion their way. But Hashem is showing us their greatest strength to locate it and take the good from the bad. There's always good in the bad. As bad as it is, take that good and apply it to us. You know what self-sacrifice and devotion means? By the way, you know where this comes from? It comes from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu's son, Ishmael, was completely self-sacrifice, devotion. That's what Ishmael saw from his father. What do you want from his descendants? Of course that's what you're going to see. But as a Jew, what it means is giving up of yourself, giving up of what you think is right for a greater cause, for the divine cause. We feel like, hey, wouldn't it be good to sleep in late on the weekends? No. The Torah teaches us, our rabbis teach us, that you wake up to pray at a proper time. You wake up Shabbat morning early enough that you can sit around the family and do Kiddush with your family. Right? Our rationale would say, if I'm traveling, what's the point of packing lunch? I could eat at the airport, I could eat McDonald's, I could eat Burger King, I could eat this, I could eat that. I could have a salad out. No, you can't. Or is that lettuce checked for bugs? No, it's not. What about fish? It's not kosher fish. You think all fish is good? Do you think the fish that they sell you is really the fish that they sell you? No, that's why it has to be kosher. Okay, we're not getting into that. That's another class. I don't want to scare everyone away. But self-devotion and self-sacrifice says, I'm going to do something that hurts me right now, because I know there's a greater cause. That's what's going on in their minds. They say, I'll blow myself up because, they promised me a world to come with a bunch of profanities. Okay? It's horrible. We don't do that. But look at what they're doing and now apply it for the good. So this is the second answer to why Yaakov Avinu was scared. The first answer that we gave is, last time he saw his brother, he had a gun to his head. Second answer is, well, there were two mitzvot that Esav excelled in, and by the way, it was no chance that he excelled in them. Those were the two that God was showing him, hey, you got to do better at, Yaakov. It's not, don't take for granted that your enemy is excelling in what you've been lacking in. He's showing us a sign, just like he is today. I want to take a break before I give the third answer. Not a coffee break, okay? And I want to speak about the different strategies Yaakov Avinu implemented in his approach to meet his brother. And then we're going to get to the third answer. Rashi tells us, our commentaries tell us, that Yaakov Avinu prepares in none other than 3 ways to meet his brother. Okay? We're going to read the verses, but he starts by preparing to send him gifts. He moves on and he prepares for war. Number 3, he prays. He prays to Hashem. Let's quote the verses really, really quickly. We're in chapter 32, verse 6. It says, Vayhili shor v'chamor tzen v'shcha, v'ashlecha la'agid la'adoni limtzochen b'einecha. And I'm going to send them gifts in order to, as a peace offering. Okay? Next, verses 8 and 9. We read that Vayira Yaakov meod, Yaakov was scared, distressed. Vayachatz et ha'am asher ito b'machaneh. He splits up. That's war. War, you set up different camps, different platoons. He split everybody up. He didn't want all his eggs in one basket. He was preparing himself for war, as the next pasuk also says. Vayomer im yavo Esav el ha'machaneh achat v'yikau, ve'ha'machaneh nishar lifleta. If he comes and attacks one, well, at least the other one's going to be surviving it. So, first, gifts. Second, war. Third way that he prepares. Listen to what he does. I'm still in the same chapter, verses 10, 11, and 12. Vayomer Yaakov. Yaakov says, Elokei avi Avraham. Oh, the God of my father Avraham and my grandfather Avraham, father Yitzchak. Katontu mikol hachasidim. He says as follows: Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Who's he talking to? He's talking to God. God, save me, spare me from my brother, spare me from Esav. Right? Whether he acts me like a brother or he acts me as the enemy Esav. These are the 3 ways Yaakov Avinu prepares. Remember, because this is important to order: gifts, war, prayer. Okay?
Is it chronological?
Oh, very good. So it is chronological. And now our question is it random? Could Yaakov Avinu be choosing this order for random? Do we think anything's random in the Torah? No, obviously. The bigger question is, well, so gifts and war, okay, but why is prayer the last? As Jews, you know what our strength is? Our mouths, our prayer. If you're tuning in online, and Bli Neder, if you're interested, I'll send you a class we gave right before Rosh Hashanah about the power of the shofar, which shows us the true power of one's mouth. Okay? Bli Neder, I'll add it in the link below, post it online, and if anyone wants, I'll share it with you. You know what Yaakov received from his father? The following verse. Hakol kol Yaakov ve'adai midei Esav. And from that, Yitzchak was prophesizing, the power of Jacob's descendants will be their mouths. And the power of Esav's descendants will be their hands. Speech versus war. Violence versus rationality. So why is Yaakov taking his God-given weapon and now using that as a third resort, as the last? Good question. The order is precise and calculated. Listen to the following. Yaakov Avinu wanted at all costs to avoid having a confrontation with his brother. I mean, think of it. Even if he was pursuing him to kill him, do you really think he wants to fight? Do you think Yaakov would want to kill his brother? No. There's a concept of self-defense, but he wouldn't want to kill him. That's very, very severe. Yaakov Avinu at first is trying to avoid a confrontation. He was trying to appease his brother. Let's send him with gifts. a lot of animals, gold, silver, slaves, anything, anything at the cost of peace. I'll make sure that peace, lose everything, give everything, as long as there's peace. However, that's the first step. However, we have to learn, and Yaakov was teaching us this, you can never let anyone take advantage of you. If they don't know that beneath the gift, imagine the following. Imagine you're handing someone a gift, and you're handing them and you're holding a velvet, like tablecloth almost, or like a handkerchief. You're holding it with white gloves. You're giving them a gift. They need to know that beneath the gift is an iron fist. That if you don't choose to be appeased by this and you don't want to make peace, well then war is on. And that's why Yaakov did it in specific that order. He first wanted at all costs to preserve the peace. Here, take the peace offering, take the gifts. But know that if you don't take them, you throw them back at me, you know that now you're waging war, and I'm prepared for that. Whether he was really prepared or not, he had to at least show the confidence that he was prepared, that he had the trust in Hashem. That's the second step. So now you're going to say, so why is prayer at the end? Shouldn't he pray before everything? So my answer to that is I'm sure he was speaking to Hashem along the whole way, but his deep, heartfelt prayer of Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav, protect me from my brother from Esav, that was safe till the end. You know why? Because there's a phenomenon. There's a phenomenon that some have. Normally when people struggle with prayer, they're struggling with one of these two aspects. Number one, having a hard time to connect to prayer.
Very much.
Okay, that's one. Most people have a hard time connecting to prayer. They have a hard time connecting to God. Okay, that's one. There's another type of person who has a very big issue, hard time with prayer. And it's not coming to pray. Listen to this. You might be flabbergasted by this. Okay? It's bearing their problems in prayer. What I mean by that is escaping their responsibilities by just going to prayer. Now again, I warn you, most don't have this problem. Most have the first problem of, it's hard to connect. It's hard to connect because you don't understand what you're reading, and sorry to say, that's your fault. You got to open the Siddur, you got to open English Siddur, you got to go to a class on it, you need to learn it. That's how you're going to connect to it. And second is, maybe you don't know enough about God that you want to connect to Him or speak to Him. That's most of our problems. But our sages tell us there's another problem. There's a type of fellow who had it out with their spouse. Tremendously horrible. And they give silent treatment, but they justify it because they're buried in the book. And that's wrong also. You have a responsibility. You have an obligation. A person has an obligation to provide a livelihood for their family. Do you have an obligation to pray for it? Oh yeah, you bet. For sure, you better do that. But can you pray 24/7 and expect your livelihood to come? Your miracle to come? No! We're not at that level. Yaakov Avinu himself, are we ever going to scratch the surface of his level? No. He first went and he did his hishtadlut, his efforts. He put his efforts first, and then he buried himself in the book. Then he buried himself in prayer. That's something we need to learn. We need to do all our efforts. We need to speak with God along the way. But we cannot just rely on prayer. I'm telling you, it's not our problem. I don't think anyone in the room, most of us, that's not our problem. But just so you know, one day, when we all get even more connected to prayer, don't use prayer as an escape route from your obligations and your responsibilities. Now, I'll say it's greater to use prayer as your escape route than addiction, drugs, drinking, gambling, obviously. But prayer can become addicting as well. Now, on that point, we can now go back to the next part of the episode in our Torah. And here we're going to tie it all together. Yaakov decides to escape, try to run away from Esav. He does so in the middle of the night. He crosses over a river, first his wife and kids, and then the rest of his belongings. Guess what? He forgets a couple little jars behind. Like all night long he's traveling back and forth, moving his stuff. Again, like we said, it was like that Pesach trip to Israel with all the kids and many luggages and hand luggages and everything that comes along with that. He forgot something. You know what he did? He went back to go get it. Why would he go back to get it? Because a righteous person appreciates everything God gives them. It's not that he was cheap or that he was miser. No. He realized, God gave me this. It's mine. I gotta appreciate it. I gotta keep it. And then we know the famous story that his brother's angel, the angel of Esav, meets him right over there, and they have it out. They going back and forth. It was a spiritual battle that manifested itself in a physical battle. Yaakov was battling him, and then the angel realized he can't beat him, so he gave him a low blow and he hit him in his thigh. Gidan Hashem, very good. Right in his thigh, in his sciatic nerve. There's something very special about that whole episode. Let's just check out. So now we're on time. Okay, we're going to finish this. That the Torah tells us, Vayivater Yaakov levado. Yaakov was left alone. Left alone? Oh yes. The angel of Esav came to attack Yaakov when he was alone. You know why? Human nature is that a person thrives and succeeds best when they are amongst others, when they're not alone, when they have companionship, partnership. Why? Because there's a support system. Can you imagine if God gave you 613 mitzvot and He put you on a shuttle and you're in outer space and you know that that's your whole life? What, so to say, motivation do you have to... You got to be really, really committed to fulfill everything, right? The idea of a community, the idea of positive peer pressure, companionship, family, all helps us one way or another to fulfill our obligations, our commitment towards God in a better way. For this reason, the angel was trying to trap Yaakov when he was alone. But he saw during the battle he can't beat him. Yaakov's too strong. So you know where he went for? He went for his thigh. The thigh is in the same vicinity as Yaakov's reproductive organs. You know what the angel was doing? The angel was saying, I can't beat you, but I'm going to beat your kids. I'm going to beat your descendants. I'm never going to give up. And for that reason, forevermore, as Jews, the way the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is able to beat us is when we are alone. When we don't have a support system. When we don't have a rabbi we learn with. When we don't have friends that are at the same or at a higher religious level than us, encouraging each other to grow, invite for Shabbat, come out to a Shiur Torah, let's go do some chesed, let's give some tzedakah, let's feed the poor, let's do some good things together. If you don't have that, that's when the Yetzer Hara has full control of you and you're going down. But when you have positive peers, you have good friends, good family, that everyone's growing together, you're setting yourself up for success. And the opposite is true too. Human beings crave companionship. And for this reason, we understand the next part. Right after this, the Torah tells us, you know, that the sciatic nerve, the Gida Nashe, is prohibited to eat. Even from a kosher animal, you can't eat it. What is the Torah in the book of Genesis, which we don't speak about kosher, right? Kosher is later on, giving us some dietary Jewish laws right now in the middle of Yaakov worrying about meeting his brother after so long. Does it seem in place? It doesn't. However, it makes perfect sense. You see, the laws of kashrut, besides for them providing us with spiritual elevation and connection to God, and withholding us from that blockage, that non-kosher food, believe it or not, physical actions have impact spiritually on us. Non-kosher food creates blockage in our blood, blockage on our hearts, blockage to our soul. And it's not coincidental that this happens to be the laws that are following right now. You see, one way that people get close together is mealtime. It's through food. When God instituted the laws of kashrut, besides for all of the things we just said, He also instituted that it would cause for a distance between us and those that we are not supposed to assimilate with. Gentiles. You can conduct business with them. There's certain things you can do, but mealtime is sacred. Mealtime brings people's minds, people's hearts, people's stomachs together. Right? What's the best way to a man? It's through his stomach. Feed him good food. And everyone knows this. I'm getting a smile over here. Very good. Okay? It is very, very true. So, for that reason, Hashem said, you'll eat meat that's slaughtered. They won't. You'll eat only kosher meat with the 2 signs. They won't. But now, something else took place. Right before the destruction of the Second Temple, the Great Assembly of Men said, we need to institute something else now that's going to cause an even greater distance. They foresaw that there was going to be over 2,000 years of exile. And they said, you know how we're going to keep the Jewish people from assimilating? We're going to impose more dietary laws. And that is specifically bishul akum, not eating kosher ingredients that was cooked by a Gentile, not eating pat akum, bread that a Gentile made. Okay, there's obviously a lot of laws. There's supervision, there's involvement, but I'm just saying in general. Okay, and wine that a goy poured. That was yain nesech, that had to do with idol worship. But if it comes to wine, if it comes to bread, if it comes to food, kosher ingredients, keep a distance. They knew that when we're alone as a Jew, and you are now amongst Gentiles and eating with them, that's the beginning of assimilation. That's the beginning of intermarriage. We have to learn that, you know what the angel was saying? I can't get you, I'll get your kids. You know how I'm going to get your kids? I'm going to get your kids by getting them to eat with us, getting them to hang out with us, getting them to date us. You know how many people I know? I'm just dating a goya. I'm just dating a goy. It's not for marriage. No. How many of those relationships consummate with marriage? Way too many. We have to know that it's very serious. We have to know that, this ridiculous thing of I can't just buy bread with kosher ingredients anywhere. No, it's for your good. It's for your kids' own good. It's for your own good that you will have Jewish kids, Jewish grandkids, and for on. It's so important. And this was the time the Torah was telling us about it. Right, exactly. During the whole lesson of being alone is when we're vulnerable. Being together is when we're strong. With this, I will sum up and give a third answer and tie it all together with why Yaakov was afraid. He was first afraid, as we said, because last time he saw his brother was a death match. Second answer we gave was he had 2 mitzvot on him. Esav was very strong in living in Israel and kibud av va'em, honoring his parents. But after all is said and done, Yaakov Avinu was a strong man. How do I know he was strong? I challenge any one of us to travel the desert with no equipment, no food, no money, no nothing. Who's going to make it? Yaakov, no one else. Okay? Yaakov comes to the well. He moves, this is last week's Parashat, he moves a tremendous boulder on top of the well. You know how many people it would take to move that? 30 people. He was no ordinary man. Physically he was strong. Spiritually he was protected by God. Yet he was still afraid. Okay? Listen to a completely different answer than the previous ones. Okay? The Ramban, Nachmanides, the Shla Kadosh, also writes that Yaakov Avinu was going through this motion not only for himself, this whole motion of meeting his brother, escaping from his brother, fighting with his brother's angel, all of this, right? Not to mention how strong he was to vanquish an angel. Do you know anyone who's beat an angel before? No. Okay? So he's really going through all of this as it's in the motions for preparing a success and a victory for his descendants. He was going through all of this for us. And based on this, Rabbi Yoram Abergel, I don't know if anyone has heard of the great rabbi, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. I am on a constant basis, may Hashem can help me to continue learn his Sfarim. He's a tremendous rabbi. He writes, from the Ramban and from the Shla we learn, Yaakov was not afraid for himself. You know who he was afraid for? He was afraid for his children, for his grandchildren, for us. And that's why he was afraid to meet Esav. Esav to him, no problem. Spiritually, physically, he could take it on. He took on the angel. As we see, he took on Esav. Even physically, when he came to bite him, he survived that. He went on, he continued. Yaakov was scared for us. Yaakov was shown a prophecy during that whole interaction with the angel of every single generation. The immediate ones after him, going into Egypt, coming out of Egypt, traveling in the wilderness, entering the land of Israel, conquering the land of Israel, exile in, out, first temple, second temple. He saw everything. He saw us today in the 21st century. And he was scared. But you know what he did when he was scared for us? He fought and he prayed. And as parents, we have to do the same. Yaakov Avinu fought for us thousands of years before we came. And he prayed for our well-being thousands of years before we came. As parents, we need to do the same. I want to put everything we said tonight all in one. I want to say as parents, we have an obligation to use the same three strategies that Yaakov used. Of gifts, of war, and of prayer with our own children. Gifts. You know what? It's not so bad to bribe your children to do good things. Especially in the world we live in today. Oh, but what's going to be when I'm not going to give them the lollipop? Are they going to sing the Aleph Beis? Are they going to say Shema? Don't worry. You'll get them something else. It's worth it. If you don't bribe them, someone else will. If you don't give your children gifts to do good things, they'll get it elsewhere. I can guarantee you. I see it with my own eyes. You see it yourself. Give gifts to your children to promote them to do the good things. Yet, so to say, warn them that there could be war. What I mean by that is there's a certain line where you cannot allow your children to cross. There are certain things that are not done. We give them gifts to encourage them to do good. They might do it, they might not do it, but there are certain things that is not acceptable in this family. It's not acceptable as a Jew. That's the war aspect. And the prayer, which is last and first and all along, not least, we need to pray for our children. The Brisker Rav said that the key to a hopeful or a chanceful successful parenting is Tehillim and tears. TNT. Tehillim and tears. Praying and praying and praying. If we think that if we pray for our children just when they're born, or you pray when your daughter turns 18, that's when you start praying for her to get married. Mistake. We need to pray for our children, for those of us who aren't married, before you get married. And you need to pray for your children when you're married and before you even have children. Before your wife's pregnant, you have to pray for your children. Your children are in diapers, you need to pray for them to find the proper shidduch and for you to be able to help them set up a proper life. Spiritually and financially, to be successful. There's no end to how much mercy, how much help as parents we need to raise healthy children. It's through gifts, it's through war, it's through prayer, it's through leading by example that we will stop the assimilation and stop the intermarriage. It's not just by chance that one day your kid tells you, hey, I have a non-Jewish girlfriend or a non-Jewish boyfriend. It's a build-up. As parents, we need to be in contact with our children. We need to be constantly praying to God that it doesn't even get near there. And as long as that happens, we will have great, successful children. So may Hashem bless us in the merit of tonight's class, in the merit of this week's Parashat, in the merit of Yaakov Avinu fighting and praying that we should never give up. We always need to fight. And we fight what? Fight for peace. Okay? Not fight for the sake of fighting. We always need to fight, and we always need to pray. And may Hashem answer our efforts and our prayers for the well-being of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, our families, communities, and all Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. Amen ve'amen. Thank you for coming. Next week, same time. And if you want to come back next week, you have to bring at least one more person with you.